Have you ever sensed an unseen force directing your choices? As though each action, each longing, every instinct originates from a part of your mind beyond your control. Something ancient and dark, not seeking approval or providing reasons. Present, even when unnoticed. Carl Jung referred to this as the unconscious. Yet that's not the most unsettling aspect. What's truly alarming is what lies hidden within this unconscious. For there exists a primal, quiet power coursing through your personal history like a concealed vein beneath the skin. You don't identify it. You avoid facing it, yet it governs your thoughts, reactions, and fixations. Consider sex. And no, I'm not alluding to the physical act, pleasure, or even desire itself. I refer to sex as a symbol, a mental drive, the quiet force behind nearly all your actions, even if you deny it. Ponder this. Why do you dress as you do? Why do you select your words so meticulously when addressing certain individuals? Why do you strive so intensely to be admired, validated, and accepted? And why, when alone, do you sense an inexplicable void? Because beneath all this lies a need older than you, a need to be wanted, to belong, to be seen. And if you fail to understand or confront this need, it will consume you from within without your realization. This is where Jung's insights become crucial. He didn't discuss sex as society does. He saw it as an archetype, a mental force so potent and influential that if unrecognized, it becomes your shadow. This shadow starts to dictate your decisions, fears, relationships, and even dreams. It makes you live under the illusion of freedom while subtly influencing every move you make. Sex, as Jung saw it, isn't taboo. It's a key, a gateway to your true self. But crossing that threshold demands something few are willing to do. Facing your most uncomfortable impulses, your most unconfessable desires, your masks. Here's the truth. Most people aren't what they believe themselves to be. They are what their impulses have shaped them into. The more they deny this, the more enslaved they become. What if everything you consider yours, your goals, habits, relationships, were tainted by a misunderstood, poorly managed, repressed sexual desire until it festers in the unconscious? What if this repression doesn't make you stronger, but weaker, more manipulable? What if what you call morality, prudence, or reason is just an elegant cage for something still screaming to escape? Don't be misled. We're not discussing pornography or scandals, but something far more perilous. How an entire society has built its value system on denying a biological and psychic truth that relentlessly pounds beneath the surface. The sexual impulse doesn't vanish when ignored. It transforms into anxiety, anger, frustration, addiction to control, approval, empty success, broken relationships, chronic loneliness, and perpetual dissatisfaction. And if you don't see it, it's because you choose not to. Seeing it means admitting you're not in control, that there's a part of you buried so deeply you've forgotten it exists. What if your tastes, passions, and fears are profoundly shaped by this impulse? That even your firmest convictions might be rationalizations crafted to avoid facing that uncomfortable truth? When Jung spoke of the anima and animus, he wasn't speaking from cold academicism, but from the experience of seeing how the most structured, correct, brilliant people repeatedly fell into existential crises with one common root: disconnection from their deep sexual dimension. Have you noticed how the most crucial decisions of your life are filled with an attention you can't explain? How a simple glance can affect you more than an hour-long speech? How desire, not love, can make you betray your values, plans, even yourself? That is the force we're discussing. You can't tame it with nice phrases or repression. You can only understand it, integrate it, or be consumed by it. This isn't about sex. It's about true control, the invisible thread that moves civilization as it pretends to have overcome it. And you, watching this, have two paths. Keep believing you're free or start seeking the real. Be careful, because what you're about to see, you might not like, but it will be real, brutally real. Now let's delve into Carl Jung's world, because understanding what he discovered can not only set you free, but rewrite how you see everything. Ready? This is going to hurt, but it's also going to awaken you. The first thing you need to grasp is this. Your mind isn't a unified entity. You aren't a single thing. Within you live multiple forces, desires, traumas, ideals, and masks. Jung called this the self, a psychic totality we rarely manage to integrate. One of the most powerful forces within that inner chaos is what he termed libido. But not the Freudian libido reduced to a genital impulse. Jung went further. For him, libido is a universal psychic energy, a creative impulse, a destructive impulse, the foundation upon which your personality is built. And yes, it's also sexuality, but it's not just about sex, it's about transformation. This is where most get lost. They believe denying sex is controlling it, that repressing it is overcoming it, that hiding it is maturing. But what really happens is fragmentation. They break their own identity into two, separating what they feel from what they show. And that division turns them into puppets of themselves, because what you repress doesn't disappear, it hides. And from the shadow it begins to move like a chained beast, silent but increasingly stronger. Have you ever wondered why you keep making the same mistakes in your relationships, attracting the same people, conflicts and disappointments? It's not a coincidence, it's unconscious repetition. It's libido acting from the shadow, seeking to resolve what you don't want to see, seeking balance through chaos. Jung warned repeatedly, what you don't make conscious becomes your destiny. And that includes your sexual impulses. What you don't understand about yourself controls you. What you deny in yourself possesses you. Pay attention, for this is key. Repressed sexual desire doesn't just affect your intimate life, it filters into your spirituality, creativity, even your sense of purpose. Because when that energy isn't channeled consciously, it distorts, turning into an obsession for control, a compulsion to reach goals you don't understand, a desperate seeking of recognition, a chronic need for validation. You look around and everyone seems to be pursuing something: success, fame, partners, money, power. But behind all that, there's often the same void, a brutal disconnection from their authentic sexual dimension. This isn't a moral critique or religious condemnation. It's a clinical observation. Jung saw it in hundreds of patients, educated, sophisticated, conscious people, but broken inside, lost, fragmented, powerless in front of a force they didn't know how to name. Many came seeking spiritual, philosophical, existential answers, and Jung, with terrifying clarity, led them to look exactly where they didn't want to, at the desire they had been denying for years, because desire, when not accepted, becomes distorted. It infiltrates your thoughts, sneaks into your decisions, and slowly turns you into a character, a mask. Here's another big truth no one wants to accept. Most people aren't themselves. They are a controlled, edited, carefully molded version to avoid rejection, meet expectations, and keep order. But beneath that mask, the unconscious burns. And one of its most intense fires is eros, attraction, magnetism, energy-seeking connection, creation, expansion. And do you know what happens when that's repressed for years? It starts sabotaging you in your work, relationships, mental health. You can't silence such a deep part of yourself without consequences. Jung made it clear, all unexpressed energy turns into neurosis, and today we see it everywhere. Brilliant, talented people with resources completely stuck, trapped in cycles of anxiety, emotional dependence, existential emptiness. And no one dares name the real origin. A brutal disconnection from sexual energy, understood not as something vulgar, but as something essential. Here's another uncomfortable truth. Sexual energy isn't just for pleasure. It's a tool for self-knowledge. Inner transformation, it's the raw material with which you can rebuild yourself if you know how to use it. The problem is, no one teaches us that. They teach us to fear it, hide it, silence it. And so entire generations learn to live mutilated with half of their psyche asleep, with a desire that doesn't disappear, but disguises itself as ambition, romanticism, false spirituality. But it's still there crying out to be integrated. Now, I ask you something you can't answer lightly. How many of your most important decisions were based on the desire to be desired? How many times did you become what you knew would attract attention, even though it took you further from yourself? How many times did you sacrifice your authenticity for a moment of validation? If you have the courage to answer yourself honestly, you'll notice something disturbing, that your life, in many ways, doesn't belong to you. It belongs to unrecognized desire, to what Jung called the collective unconscious, which in this case acts as a cultural, sexual mold, a set of images, roles, and expectations that we all absorb without realizing it. And that mold is stronger than you think. It tells you how to desire, whom, when, how much. It tells you what's attractive, what's normal, what's excessive. And if you don't fit, you feel broken. But the most dangerous part is this. The more you try to fit in, the further you get from your inner truth. And that's where the symptom appears. Because Jung also said that symptoms are the soul's attempts to heal. Anxiety, depression, insomnia, existential distress aren't the problem. They are the cry of something inside you that has been locked away for years. And if that cry is your unintegrated sexual energy, not the energy of one night, not superficial desire, but deep eros, the one that connects you to your creativity, passion, personal power, that eros that Jung associated with the individuation process, with inner alchemy, with the journey to the real self, not the social character. And do you know what the first stage of that journey is? Recognizing that you are not free, that your chains aren't in the system, society, or even your history. They are in your unconscious, in your shadow, in that corner where your sexuality has been exiled, distorted, and hidden all your life. And until you go there, you'll keep seeking outside what's been inside. You'll keep believing you need love, success, recognition, when in reality, all you need is to reconnect with the source, with that primal, brutal, powerful energy that has inhabited you since before it had a name. Sex, yes, but not as the ads, movies, or algorithms understand it, but as Jung understood it, as the most honest door to who you truly are. And the question left is simple but devastating. Are you going to keep living as if that door doesn't exist? Because if you decide to open it, get ready. Nothing will ever be the same. And here is where everything gets even more twisted. Most people not only ignore that deep energy, but project it. Jung said that everything you don't make conscious gets projected outside. Do you know what that means? That a large part of what you criticize, desire, or reject in others actually lives within you. It's your own shadow screaming through someone else's face. And few things provoke more projection than repressed sexual desire. That is the root of many chaotic relationships, emotional dependencies, unhealthy idealizations. You don't love the other. You love what you project onto them. You love the part of you that you don't know how to integrate. Look carefully. When someone dazzles you, when you feel an inexplicable, almost mystical attraction, you're not seeing that person clearly. You're seeing a mirror of the eros you carry inside, and don't dare to touch. That's the trap. You don't fall in love with them. You fall in love with what they awaken in you. And what happens when what they awaken is so powerful, it destabilizes you. You chase it like a drug addict, not for love, but for need, because without realizing it, that person becomes your unconscious access to your own inner power. But of course, since you don't see it this way, you call it destiny, your other half, soulmate, and you get lost in a narrative that justifies attachment, obsession, emptiness, all because you don't know that what you're seeking is inside you. Jung saw this again and again, men projecting their anima onto women, women projecting their animus onto men. These aren't just poetic terms, they're internal realities, parts of your psyche that are incomplete. And every time someone appears in your life and shatters your assumptions, it's because they're touching one of those parts. And what do most do when they feel that intense attraction? Run toward it, become obsessed, attached to it, or, on the other hand, run terrified because eros isn't comfortable. True eros disarms, it strips you bare, forces you to see yourself without filters, and that not everyone can endure. Now let's go even deeper. Why does this energy have so much power over you? Why is it able to alter your nervous system, judgment, identity? Because it's not just biology, it's myth, symbol, archetype. In every culture for millennia, sex has been represented as something sacred and dangerous at the same time, and it's no coincidence. The sexual act is the only moment in which the ego dissolves completely, where control is lost, where the primitive, the divine, the animal appear. That's why religions tried to control it, because they knew that whoever controls sex controls the individual. And if you don't control your relationship with that energy, someone else will. And here comes the most disturbing part. You don't need to have sex for sex to control your life. You can be celibate, a monk, celibate by choice or circumstance, and still be completely dominated by that energy if you don't know how to integrate it. Because eros doesn't need the physical to manifest. It does so in your fantasies, insecurities, blocked creativity, your way of loving, hating. It's in the way you compete, stand out, relate to power, money, art. Repressed eros will find any crack to slip through. If it can't express itself directly, it will disguise itself as envy, pride, a compulsive need to stand out, or even as self-sabotage. Because yes, even self-sabotage can be an unconscious form of punishment for not allowing yourself to live from what you truly desire.